This one might upset people. Like, I think I'm gonna ruffle a few feathers. Today, we are discussing hot takes, like the spiciest of takes regarding tarot. I am stepping through the controversial doorway and into a world of, I don't know, argumentation. This video is completely inspired by another YouTuber named Miss Nefarious Aquarius, and I will leave a link to her channel down below in the description, but I saw her video yesterday, literally last night, and I was like, I have to do a VR to this. Like, I have to make my own version. So check out her video. There are some things that we actually share in common when it comes to our controversial hot takes regarding tarot decks, but there are also places where we diverge and where I have my own opinions, and I'm here to start riots. So today's video is all about decks that I will never add to my collection. Before we launch into this, I want to say that I'm actually going to be talking a little bit about like themes, like certain kinds of decks that I'm never going to add to my collection, or like I would do so very sparingly if I did it at all. And then inevitably I'm going to give you 5 decks that I literally don't like and will never add to my collection. Now, some of them are a bit like, they're okay, like some of them, I feel like the themes, there's certain types of decks that I won't add, and that is more along the lines of what I was thinking, but I did choose 5 specific decks, and I do feel bad for some of them, and others I don't. So before we really launch into it, hi there, my name is Amelia, and I am a professional tarot reader and psychic. I am also an author, and if you guys want to check out any of my work, I will leave links down in the description below, but let's go ahead and get right into this. So I will say, I loved how gentle Miss Nefarious Aquarius was, and I'm sorry, I know there's like another channel name, that's the YouTube handle, and so like that's what I remember, but the other creator, I really liked how gentle she was and how she was like, look, these are my opinions, guys, like, you know, we're all entitled to our own opinion, you know, sometimes we like art, sometimes we don't, and that's all up to, you know, subjective, personal opinion. I keep saying opinion. And I love that she took that take. I'm not so nice. In fact, I love being controversial. I love giving you guys hot takes. So I'm not apologizing for my opinions. Also, this could be my pregnancy rage. Like the hormones are getting to me, you know? All right, anyway, let's start off with some deck themes that I'm not down for, I'm not here for, I don't like it. The first one, it's kind of obvious. I believe I have a whole video on this, but I'm not a fan of AI art in tarot. And I have to mention, this is becoming more prominent than I expected. I actually thought it was going to be very popular at first to see AI art in tarot and people passing it off as real art and saying, like, you know, basically not disclosing that they used AI for it. And so that was happening, and then I thought that it would just die off, like that it would still be there, but like you would know because the deck would be so incredibly cheap. Like you'd go on Amazon and there was like this, you know, deck that very clearly looks like AI art, and even if it didn't, you would look at the price and be like, why is that deck only $9 or less or something? I'm thinking like $9.99. And I was like, okay, you know, people are going to notice, and then we're not going to purchase those decks, right? Wrong. I've been on Etsy, and Etsy is flooded with beautiful artwork, but it's AI. And I'm not going to lie, I do find some AI artwork to be beautiful, to be quite pretty. I personally don't want it in a tarot deck, and I will not support creators selling AI art in tarot. And I understand there are limitations. There are people who are not artists who want to make tarot decks, like me, for example, and I have yet to find an artist, and I'm also not looking that hard, to be honest. I have no conception of what a tarot deck would look like if I created one, but if I were, I would want to hire an artist or do it myself. But I understand the struggle of not being an artist, wanting to do this thing, and maybe you're a writer. Maybe you really want to create a good guidebook, but the problem that you have is you don't have the tools or the skills to create that kind of art, and so you turn to AI. I get it. I understand the convenience. I personally don't condone it or support it. And I also have seen decks that are AI on Kickstarter, and people do disclose it. And I will say, in the other YouTube video, in that Miss Nefarious Aquarius did, in her video, she talked about how she respects creators that, at least list that it's AI. And I'll be honest, I mean, that is something to respect. At least they're being honest about it. I'm still not going to support them personally. Like, personally, AI is a no-go for me. If I find out a deck is AI, even if I really enjoyed it, if I purchased it or someone purchased it as a gift for me, I'd probably get rid of it. I'm not even joking. Like, I would just get rid of it. And it's because I don't support AI in a multitude of ways, and that includes in art and in tarot. All right, so the next one is going to be even more controversial. The AI one, I feel like, I feel like a lot of people are just kind of against AI, so that one's not as hot takey controversial. This one is about to be. I will never purchase decks by Nicoletta Ciccoli. Never. Okay, I'll put some images up on the screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I don't like this artwork. And, I mean, I do and I don't. I like how creepy it is. I think it's something I would have liked, a few years ago. But at this point in my life, I don't feel drawn to it. I'm not interested. And I find it kind of perverse. My spiritual practice and my spiritual preferences have shifted and changed a lot over the years, and I used to be obsessed with creepy, strange, dark, almost evil, like, works. But today I'm not. Today I'm into more connection and love and appreciation and gratitude and things like that. And so, because my spiritual perspective and opinions have changed, my tastes have also changed. I don't watch horror movies anymore. I don't consume content that is scary or that is incredibly dark, nothing that could give you nightmares. I just don't do that anymore. And that's not to say that you can't. I understand that there's a lot of joy in it. I found a lot of joy in it when I was younger. I just don't do it anymore. And so, therefore, I don't really like Nicoletta Ciccoli's artwork. And I find a lot of it to be very uncomfy. And I know Miss Nefarious Aquarius made such a wonderful argument about how we hear this all the time in the tarot community. If you don't like the artwork, it's because you need to sit with it. It's because it's triggering you and you need to figure out what that trigger is. And I love how she was like, it's not that deep, guys. Like, sometimes you just don't like the artwork. That's true. And I think I actually like the artwork with this one, and I know people will be like, oh, it's because your inner child is wounded, or oh, it's because, you have some issues from your past you need resolving. Like, come on, please. No, I don't like it because it does not sit with my type of spirituality anymore. I don't value it. I don't enjoy participating in it, and I don't want any part of it. So, sorry to Nicoletta Ciccoli, but I'm not a fan of the artwork any longer. I'm not a fan of the concept. I find it perverse, unwelcoming, unsettling, and to the point that I don't want it in my spiritual practice at all whatsoever. In the same vein, this one was also brought up in her video, but I don't really like artwork by Jasmine Beckett Griffin, or Griffith? Yeah, Jasmine Beckett Griffith either. These decks, they are like big baby doll heads with like little eyes and whatnot. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the artwork personally. It's not something I would add to my collection, and I don't view it in the same way that I view the Nicoletta Ciccoli art, where I view Nicoletta Ciccoli's art as very like perverse, but I don't view Jasmine Beckett Griffith's artwork like that. It's just not for me. It's just not my thing. It kind of falls in the same ballpark, but not really. So like, both are creepy and weird, and I don't need that in my life. But also, I don't find it as, like, toxic, if you will. So, yeah, but I'm probably never going to purchase any of those decks either. I'm just not a fan of it. So, now, the next one is hilarious because I actually have some of these, but collage decks. And if you guys have followed me for any amount of time, you guys know I don't like collage decks. Now, there are a few collage decks that come to mind, that I really don't like, but I'm going to talk about a popular kind of collage deck because I'm trying to stick to really popular mass market decks because I don't want to blast indie creators. And again, if you like this artwork, props to you, go out, purchase it, whatever. I personally don't. And these are, again, hot takes, personal opinions, controversial opinions. But I don't like collage decks in general. And I know a lot of people love collage decks. I see so many on Kickstarter. There's so many indie collage decks out there. It's not for me. It's just not my thing. I find them busy, disorganized. They don't make any sense. I also think that they're kind of like, and it's not everybody, but a lot of collage decks, I'm like, and this is coming from somebody who like junk journals and scrapbooks and stuff, and like, I'm gonna admit, it's fun, I love it, it's easy, but I wouldn't consider it an art in the same way that I consider other things art. I know it is technically art because art is subjective, but I don't know. Like, if I made a tarot deck and I did a collage deck, I think I could actually do one, but again, I don't personally like that kind of art. At least in tarot, at least being sold like that. So to keep it mainstream, I don't like decks by Rebecca Campbell. And there are a couple reasons why. I mean, the main one is the collage. I don't really like the collage art. I don't like realistic people in my tarot decks most of the time. I want it to feel more artsy and less like a photograph. Like, I don't like photographed humans in tarot decks. I don't know what it is. I just don't like it. And with the Rebecca Campbell art, another problem I have with the Rebecca Campbell decks is I don't find that the words, like the keywords on the oracles or like the message on the oracles, I don't find them useful. And I don't really find them like expansive in a way. It feels very like plain and almost too love and light for me. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Rebecca Campbell decks, and it's not just those kinds of decks either. There's like other decks that fall in the same category, the same vein. I just can't think of them off the top of my head right now, but that kind of genre of deck where it's all very pink and pastel and collage-y and simple live, laugh, love messaging, it's just not for me. It's not for me. Though I have been tempted by the Starseed one recently. Tempted, I should say. I was totally against it actually a few years ago. I'm still kind of against it. There's still a lot of things I don't like about the deck, but I've also been on the hunt for a very specific kind of oracle deck, and so far there's only a handful that have really like piqued my interest, and I haven't found the one. So I don't know. I'll talk about that in an oracle deck video at some point, but I have considered the Starseed, kind of. Okay, so the next themed kind of thing that I don't like in tarot decks and oracle decks are the colored pencil artwork, and this is kind of complicated because I'm not talking like, this is not colored pencil, but I'm not talking like Mindscapes Tarot. That's like those are like the pastels, I believe, or like the chalk, or like the chalk art things. Gosh, it's been so long since I've been in an art class. But like, it's not that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm fine with that. That's very complex. It's very detailed. There's been a lot of time and effort. I'm talking about art that looks like a 5-year-old drew it. I'm not going to name names, not going to name decks. Some people are obsessed with these decks. They like speak to their inner child. Again, cool. I personally don't like it. If it looks like a 5-year-old drew it, I'm not interested. You know, in the same way, I'm not interested in Jackson Pollock's art that looks like somebody just vomited all over the canvas. I'm not interested in it. So I personally, I called it colored pencil art because I usually see people doing it with colored pencils. And I've seen a few decks like this. Again, a lot of them have been indie, but I don't like it. It's not my style. It's too simple. It's too childish. It doesn't feel like very deep and involved, but like in general, not really my vibe. Told you guys, I'm gonna be so mean, but these are my opinions. Okay, so this one also might ruffle feathers, but I also feel like it's going to be something that a lot of people relate to. So I will never own decks, or I don't want any decks that are linked to Disney specifically, or to like movies and pop culture. And this one took me a second to figure out what I was talking about, but I don't like Insight Edition decks. So I'm lumping this all together in one category because it all kind of relates. So the Disney Villains Tarot is one that comes to mind. I got it for a friend because my friend loves Disney. I'm not a huge Disney person. I don't like Disney. I find Disney to be very toxic. I would boycott Disney, in all honesty. I don't like Disney. But I do have a friend who adores Disney. And so I got her the Disney Villains Tarot, not knowing that it was a pip deck. And the cardstock sucks. It's just a rough deck to use. She has it. She, never uses it. I don't think she ever touches that thing. And I'm honestly surprised she hasn't gotten rid of it yet. But that deck stinks. It stinks. And then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't like the Nightmare Before Christmas deck either. Even though I actually like that movie, I don't like the Nightmare Before Christmas deck. And then that led me down the road of, what about the Buffy deck? And then the Supernatural deck? And then I was like, wait, a lot of these are Inside Editions. Not all of them, I don't think. But I was looking at Inside Editions decks, and Inside Editions was doing this thing where they were making these decks, and I think a lot of them were pip decks. They were pop culture, and they were pricey, and they just weren't worth it. The cardstock sucked. There was a lot of problems with them, and I don't like them. I just don't like them, and I'm not going to purchase things like that. Now, there are certain shows and certain things I love, and I would love to get a deck about certain shows that I personally enjoy. But for one, those shows might never be turned into tarot decks, and two, I'm not going to do it if it's a pip deck. I didn't put that on the list here, but I'm not a huge fan of pip decks. I would not totally say if it's a pip deck, I'm never going to get it, because that's not true. I think I would get minimalist and pip decks, maybe, depending on what the theme was, but if it's a theme like pop culture, I'm not going to do it. Okay, so the next themed thing that I'm not a fan of is any oracle deck that just has one word on it. And particularly if that word just tells you what is on the card. So if it's a picture of a tower and it says tower, thanks. I can see it's a tower. Or if it has a picture of a dog and it says dog, it's yes, I am aware that that's a dog. It's just pointless to me. I would rather have the dog and then have loyalty. But even then, not really my cup of tea, because I don't like oracle decks that have one word. Now, I have since gotten over my aversion to reading guidebooks. Don't ask me why I even had that aversion, but I did. So I finally have gotten over my aversion to reading guidebooks, and I've been reading guidebooks, and I do love the Archetypes Oracle by Kim Krans, which is both a collage deck. I don't love the art, but I love the guidebook. And it also only has one word on most of the cards, like cave or whatever. And then you have to open the guidebook to figure out what it means. But I love that guidebook. And I can be okay with a oracle deck that did have one word if the guidebook was powerful enough. But if the guidebook is just kind of generic, I'm not going to like it. And generally, I don't like oracle cards that just have one word on them. That's very, very rare for me. My current favorite oracle, I'm looking at it right now, is the Solitary Witch Oracle. That one has titles and such. The guidebook is very nice, but even if you just had the titles, I feel like you could do something with them because they're very unique to the deck. Or the Citadel Oracle, which I also have been loving, and it has keywords. And keywords on oracles is so helpful and so nice. But yeah, if I had an oracle deck that had one word and it just is showing what's on the picture, then I don't really want that. I don't need that. Okay, then the last thing in themes that I don't like are RWS clones. And I don't purchase RWS clones for myself, ever. Am I gifted them? All the time. And I don't like to get rid of decks that are gifted to me. I don't always work with them, but I tend to think that there's probably a reason it's come my way, or at least, somebody thought about me and they were trying to get me something that they thought I would like, and so even though it's an RWS clone and I personally don't like it, I don't mind. Now, there are exceptions. There are RWS clones that I don't consider clones. So some people might say the Dark Wood Tarot is like an RWS clone. I argue it's RWS inspired. I don't mind if a deck is RWS inspired. So if it looks like the traditional depiction, but with that theme. So maybe the Ethereal Visions Tarot, one of my favorite tarots, and it's RWS inspired. The characters are doing the RWS thing, but in that style. Now, what I don't like are RWS direct clones, and I'm thinking of my gold foil tarot. I'm thinking of my pink tarot that has no name because I just got it randomly from a person. Those ones are not something that I'm a fan of. I'm okay with RWS decks that are just recolored, like the Centennial Tarot, or the expanded idea behind the RWS, which I got from my RWS wide angle. Those are fine. Cats Rule the Earth takes a different stance because it is RWS inspired, and I'm not going to call it a clone. However, I'm not a huge fan of that one, and I think it's because it's very kitschy to me, but I don't dislike it in the way that I dislike all of the ones that are just direct clones. Again, thinking of that pink one and the gold foil one that I'm talking about. All right, now the moment that we've all been waiting for, the top 5 decks I will never bring into my collection. And this is it gets kind of rude, to be honest. Like, it starts out like, yeah, fair, and then I think it gets rude. But it is what it is. So I'm targeting some decks, and I do think 2 of them are indie, and I feel bad about that. I feel so guilty about that. I was trying not to. I was trying to do mass market only, guys. We'll start off strong. First deck that I will never add to my collection. You guys probably know if you've seen my channel. It's the Everyday Witch Tarot. I'm not a fan. I don't like modern decks. I don't like the Everyday Witch. I didn't like it when I first learned about it. I still don't like it. It's not my thing. I'm so picky with modern decks. And, this one has been so popular. A lot of people loved it. I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't do the Everyday Witch. I don't know. I don't know if it's the art style. I don't know if it's the modern depictions. I don't know if it's because it feels overdone because it became so popular, but I'm not a fan of the Everyday Witch Tarot. It's just, I don't like it. And it's funny because I like my Deck of the Luminaries Tarot, and that one's pretty modern and has some similar theming to the Everyday Witch, but I like the colors and the art better. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Everyday Witch. The next deck I will never bring into my collection is the Lightseers Tarot, kind of for the same reason. It's just so modern, and I don't really like the art. I don't find it interesting. It feels boring. It feels overdone. I don't see it as a very powerful deck. It doesn't feel spiritual to me in any way. And I hadn't really thought about the diversity of the deck because that's what it was praised for, and I didn't really think about that. I think because today we do have a lot of very diverse decks, people are taking that into account more, but when the Lightseers came out, maybe it wasn't as popular. So, I can understand how, for its time, it was doing something revolutionary, but I came into tarot after that deck already existed, and, there were already other options that were so much better. And again, not loving modern art, modern people, modern items like cell phones in tarot. I don't like that. I mean, I don't like modern art either, but I don't like modern depictions in my tarot either. I'd rather have nature, and I don't mind if it's modern in the sense of it's modern but we're showing national parks or something. As long as it feels very spiritual and we're getting away from the technology and kind of going back towards nature and as close to our roots as we can get, I tend to like it better. But anyway, Lightseers Tarot, it just doesn't inspire me. It doesn't pull me in. It doesn't feel like it's going to grow my spiritual practice. So, and I already have one modern deck that I love, and I don't want any more. I don't need any more. This next one I'm conflicted on. I think because I want to like it, and I don't. And it's the Psychic Tarot. It's an oracle deck. I don't know why it's called tarot. I don't know much about it, actually. I looked into it a long time ago, but I was looking, when I was making this video, I was looking at the most popular decks, again trying to stick to mass market if I could, and I have seen this deck talked about before and people love it, and I think it has a really good guidebook, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Look, when I said I saw Miss Nefarious Aquarius' video last night and I just started filming today, I'm not joking, I jumped right in. But the problem with the Psychic Tarot for me is the art, again, just doesn't feel super inspiring. And then further, it's just one key word on the card. Granted, it's not just saying here's a dog, a picture of a dog and the word is dog. It's not like that, but I just don't find it useful. I don't know how it would fit in my spiritual practice as it stands. And I know it's a popular deck. I'm sure that there's a lot of good about it. It's just not for me. You know, like I can just look at it, and there's another one that's similar to it. I don't remember what it's called, but I'll put it up on the screen as well. I think it's by the same artist or creator, but it's just not for me. And I know it's not, and maybe I guess one day it could be, but like I doubt it because that was one of the first decks I saw actually when I entered my tarot practice to begin with, like 5 years ago. And you know, I didn't like it then, so. Okay, the last two I feel guilty about. I feel guilty saying it, and I hate it, and I'll explain myself. Promise I'll explain myself. One deck I will sadly, and I do mean sadly, never bring into my collection, is the Everyday Tarot by Biddy Tarot. I love Biddy Tarot. I love what she's done. Her website is like one of my go-to tarot resources. It's what taught me the tarot. I will forever love that website, love her work, and, you know, want to support her in any way I can, but I would never use that deck if I had it. I think it's because it's just too minimal, and I'm not a fan of the color palette. I'm just not. I have issues with minimal decks. I have issues with pip decks, and these aren't pips, I don't think. I don't think they are, but I don't enjoy the colors on it, and I don't think I would use it. As much as I want to support that creator, I'm not a fan of the deck. And I love the website. When I say biddytarot.com is like the go-to, like that is what I recommend to people if you want to start learning tarot. Like that website is just wonderful. And if you don't know what a card means, you can look it up. And I think her write-ups are perfect. They're amazing. But I would never purchase the deck because it just doesn't appeal to me. It would be a novelty thing. It would just collect dust on my shelf, and I don't want to purchase decks for novelty, and I don't want to purchase decks that I'll never use. And I do have decks that I never use. I have a whole video about that, and they are sitting inside a drawer forgotten, and I don't want that to happen to other decks if I can prevent it. And so with the Everyday Tarot, it just doesn't appeal to me. I wouldn't get it, but gosh, do I love the resource that is Biddy Tarot. So that's why I feel guilty. The last one is Pacific Northwest Tarot, and I believe this one's also an indie tarot deck as well. The Pacific Northwest Tarot, I actually found, it was one of the first decks I saw as well on my tarot journey, and I loved the way it looked, but it's not something I would purchase. And this is because I'm not a huge fan of animal decks most of the time. I'm not a big animal person. Like, I have a lot of pets, but I'm not a big animal person. I've never been a big animal person. And so I just don't have that affinity with animals in the way that other people do. And so it's hard for me to enjoy animal decks, like spirit animal oracles or like oracle, like, or animal tarot decks and such. I really like the look of the Orions, I don't remember how to say it, tarot. I love the way that one looks, and if I was going to pick an animal-based tarot deck, that's the one I would go with, because I think that one's prettier, and it's more, there's more animals, I guess, because Pacific Northwest is so specific to a region, and I don't live in that region. I live in the Midwest, not the Pacific Northwest. So, like, most of those animals, they're just, it's cool if you lived in the Pacific Northwest. I think that would be a wonderful deck to have. If there was a Midwest animal deck, maybe I would get it, but again, that's kind of speaking on novelty. I just don't see myself using an animal tarot like that. And I do have decks that have no people in them, like the Spacious Tarot, which has animals in it already, and I'm obsessed with that deck. I love that deck. So I don't feel the need to have another one that has animals in it. And I love the art in Pacific Northwest. I really do, but I'm not from the Pacific Northwest. I don't know a lot of those animals in the same way, and I just don't have the affinity for animals anyhow, so it's just not something I would put in my collection. Anyway, those are my hot takes, and I bet I was not as kind in my video. I can tell I was not as nice. I was very brutal, but those are my opinions. It is what it is, and those are the decks that I would never, add, whether because of their theme or because of the deck itself. There are probably others. There are some decks I know that I would never add due to card stock and whatever, but for whatever reason they didn't pop into my head before I started filming, so I might put a comment down below, maybe, if I think of more that I really don't like, because I know there's some where I'm like, oh, I would love to have it, but like, at the end of the day, I know I'm not going to because there is some issue with it, whether that's issues with ethicality, whether that's issues with production, etc. So anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you guys have hot takes, you should jump on this VR and tag Miss Nefarious Aquarius because she started this. And anyway, I'd love to hear your opinions, and until next time, I will catch you later.